All right, I'm going to turn it over to Cameron to kick us off and get it started, and then I'm going to be happy to talk all about micro-internships with you today.
Hi everyone, my name is Cameron Albring. I'm the Director of Career Services at Oakland Community College. Welcome to our live webinar with Parker Dewey, a new partner for us here at the college. We are excited to have you here. Thank you for taking the time today. I think you'll find this a very simple way to connect with OCC talent and other program areas that you may not be aware of at Oakland Community College. We anticipate this being a pretty simple tool for you to use, again, to connect with talent virtually at OCC. I am going to keep this moving and kick it over to Emily Kravitz with Parker Dewey, and she'll go through the agenda and the flow of the day. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Cameron, and thanks to the OCC team that's on the call as well. Just want to confirm, Cameron, if you can just thumbs up, my screen's still good. You can see my slides. Okay, thank you. So yes, I'm Emily Kravitz. I'm the Employer Engagement Specialist here at Parker Dewey. My role is to help employers just like yourself get started, answer questions. As Cameron mentioned several times in her intro, Parker Dewey is easy to navigate, and I really do mean that. Prior to coming aboard Parker Dewey, I worked in career services myself for almost 20 years. Parker Dewey was a tool that was available to us on the career services side, and now that I'm here on the Parker Dewey side, there's just endless ways that you can use Parker Dewey and micro-internships to engage your students, or as you're thinking to build your brand or just get to know early talent at the OCC campus as well. Fun fact, I grew up in the Metro Detroit area, very familiar with OCC and a lot of the employers that engage the students. And so nice to have that special hometown connection during this conversation today as well. So I will do my best to keep an eye on the questions in the chat if you have anything, or Cameron can even unmute and just say, hey, there's a question if I miss it. And then we'll save some time at the end as well if you have questions, and just looking forward to it. So I do want to mention that OCC is one of 800 partner schools and colleges that we work with across the country. So really have a great connection with our local institutions and helping employers connect with early talent. One thing I want to note before we get too far is that this session is really focused on employers and helping your employers make better hiring decisions based on real-time candidate engagement tools and data so that you can start to build relationships with your local population. And as you're thinking about future summer internships, part-time, full-time jobs, apprenticeships, like whatever it is that you're looking to connect to. We'll spend about 20 to 30 minutes or so chatting. We are recording this meeting. So if you need to hop off early, or if you're like, wait, what did you say again? You will also get a copy of the slides as well as a copy of the recording. So you'll have all that you can share back with your team. So you'll have all that you need. So a bit about what I'm going to cover today. Really, we're going to talk about where employers are with the recruiting process and the season, and making sure that you start with a pipeline of good candidates. To be clear, this is the opposite. If you're used to hiring college students, this is the opposite of that one-click application process where you're going to get hit with an avalanche of talent that may not be a good fit for you. We really want to have candidates that are truly excited about working for your company, understand your brand, and are really excited about the opportunities that you have. We also want to help talk about how we can help you attract candidates who normally would be perfect but might be getting missed. Maybe they're not coming to an event because they're working full time. And so OCC does such a great job of offering opportunities for students to meet employers, but also this particular student population is often juggling work and family life and commuting and other things like that. And so it shouldn't be an issue, but we want to make sure that you're connecting with students that are ready to come work for you. We also want this to be a tool for you to strengthen relationships with Cameron and her team and just with campus partnerships. Some of the employers on this call may be very new to working with college students, or others of you may have a very established process. I want to reiterate that micro-internships are not meant to replace a traditional summer internship or a full-time job. They're meant to be a tool that's supplementary and to make you make better hiring decisions. And also, this is easy data that you can share back with the leadership at your team as companies are thinking about trimming recruiting budgets or aren't really sure what's happening next with the economy and with hiring. Just a great way, a low-cost way to kind of make some connections with what's happening on campus. So as I'm sure you're all hearing, companies of all sizes are starting to share these insights. They're complaining about volume of candidates resulting from those one-click applications, not getting enough attendees at events. They might be coming to OCC to learn about how to reach certain students, certain populations, or from certain programs. And then they're sometimes surprised when the recruiting message isn't getting through. And so that's something that we see a lot of our employers facing, and it's our role to try to help fix some of those issues. First, I'd like to share just also a little bit more about who we are as a company, because you may be wondering that as well. We've been around now for about a decade. Since our founding, we're 100% focused on creating real experiential learning opportunities for employers to engage prospective candidates. And we use something called the skills first framework to see that in action. We know after kind of working this through over the last 10 years that this experiential recruiting approach is time tested and proven. And we've improved it to make it accessible for hiring early talent. We've also made it a point to remove friction, paperwork, and hassle that usually exists when making a hire, making it really easy for you to both capture data and to also respond to changing needs in this economy. Our platform does collect a ton of data. I'm not going to spend a ton of time today talking about the data piece, but I will show a couple of pieces that we can do for you. Data that will also help you improve your early career recruiting outcomes if you're looking to make a lot of hires, helps you find candidates engaged to your specific roles, and shows that they're actually interested in your organization, and they'll be able to see that from the first point of application. So we do that in a way that directly benefits hiring managers and provides a ton of action for you right away. And so let's dig into how employers are using Parker Dewey. So first, want to make sure that if you are coming to campus or you are recruiting at events or you're going to networking sessions or things like that, how are you making sure that you're getting the most out of your campus visits both before, during, and after the events? I remember when I worked in career services, we'd get a ton of employers that would come to our career fairs, and then students wouldn't actually follow up and apply afterwards. They shook your hand at the event and then just sort of disappeared. And so, and also, what are you going to be doing if you're not coming to campus or you don't have a brand that's well known to students? In this case, this aligns to adding more work to your plate. And so we want to avoid that. You may also be a small business or a small organization or a nonprofit, for example, that doesn't do campus recruiting and isn't planning on it. You may only need to hire 1 or 2 people a year, or you're just looking to bring on some younger students or some early talent just for some projects here or there. Parker Dewey is also a great resource for that. We can also, I love to do what's like the busy, I'm looking at my list right now of all the things that are on my plate. I've got a list of 6 things in order, and man, it would be nice to have a micro intern that I could just sort of give some of those projects to and get them crossed off my list, because I keep moving them back on my calendar a few days into the future. But a micro intern can come and help during a busy season, for example, and help get some of those projects that you've had just hanging onto your plate crossed off your list. For example, I was talking with an employer literally right before this call. They're a nonprofit based in Chicago. They do not have a recruiting budget to bring on a lot of talent, but they're going to be working with Parker Dewey on a series of projects. The first project being helping with their upcoming annual fundraiser. They're going to bring on a student that's going to help do some donor outreach and some vendor selection. And so that's something that can easily be done in the form of a micro internship. Okay, so what are micro-internships? So I want to make sure I spend some time on that as well. So as I said at the beginning, our experiential learning approach is time-tested and proven. And again, we're making it very accessible for early talent recruiting. And so we've pioneered something called micro-internships. Again, I mentioned this at the very beginning. We take out the hassle. So there's no paperwork or extensive background checks or application or onboarding or anything like that that needs to take place for these opportunities to happen. But in short, these are bite-sized, short-term experiences that are both engaging to students, driving them to want to learn more about your organization, but also it keeps them engaged after they have the interest. It also allows you to quickly see a student's skills in action in a way that's not really captured on a resume, and before you invest a bunch of time in hiring. This is really what feeds the platform, and it really plugs right into your process. And so when you're thinking about looking at resumes for people that you're looking to hire, they may all have the same classes if they're coming from a particular major or a particular program. They may all have the same GPA. They may all have the tool or the software that you're looking to hire for, but how do you actually know when, how, where they've actually used that in the past? And so bring on a micro intern, use it as an audition for any of your full-time hires. Besides crossing those to-do lists off your plate, micro internships are also super useful for auditioning candidates, seeing them in real life before you invest in them for a more permanent internship or full-time job. And so as you can also see, the investment to post projects is really small. Typically, you're looking at under $600 per project. We ensure that all students are paid for their work. But again, these are not meant to replace a traditional internship. Given that most OCC students are working while going to school, they can do these projects in their own time. They're primarily remote. You agree upon a start date and an end date for the work to be turned into you, and then the student gets going. And so they can continue to do their classwork, their home life, their jobs on the side while completing projects for you. I also want to mention that the student remains on our books the entire time. So we invoice you at the end of the project, and that's how the student gets paid. You're not bringing them on. You're not having to have them sit down with HR. You're not sharing passwords, customer data, or database access, or anything like that. We help you scope out projects, and I can work directly with you on that will exist outside of those internal systems. I'm working with an employer at a state park in Florida who needs help setting up QuickBooks. The student's not going to be going into their financial data and looking through information. They're putting together a training guide so that they can implement QuickBooks quickly at the organization. I'm also working with another small organization. It's a murder mystery tour company, kind of an interesting organization. And for that kind of business, they know that they're looking to bring on some sort of social media. But this individual owner has no idea how to do that and doesn't understand the strategy behind it. So he's going to be working with two students on two separate projects. The first micro-internship project is going to be a research project to help determine the difference between using Instagram and TikTok and the pros and cons of both as it relates to his particular line of business. The student will be looking at some best practices as well as what his competition is doing in the social media space, and then making some recommendations from there. So again, the student's able to do that work without having to access his internal social media sites or accounts or anything like that. The second project is actually going to be putting some of those recommendations into action. The student's going to be developing a 4-week social media calendar so he can understand when to best put the posts and get the most impressions and things like that. And so that he can easily pick up the pace after the project is over and start implementing things. He also has hiring needs, so he intends to bring on a social media person part-time permanently and is hoping to use these projects as an audition, looking at both of the candidates that he selects for those projects to now have a great pool to be able to pick the right person for his permanent part-time position. So again, more than just a project, our system will also, I talked about data, we'll show you what some of the data looks like in systems when employers are looking beyond just the individual assignment to leverage it as part of a key aspect of recruiting. It helps, again, build relationships with students. You're getting insight on their skills. You're getting the most out of what they're already doing at OCC. And it can also help you, again, build those relationships with the schools. And in this environment, it's really key because there's just a lot of competition out there for talent. Okay, so what would you need to do to get started? I can't reiterate this enough, and I know that Cameron did as well. This is a very easy process. Once you get an account in the system, and our accounts are free, so you can make a free account in the platform. There's no cost to create an account. You can have a project posted within just a few minutes, and you can start receiving applicants. It's very easy. With that being said, I'm also happy to connect with you one-on-one if you want some support or help in getting your account created and getting a project posted. But to get started, the easiest thing to do would be to start thinking about project ideas. We have a whole operations team that can help you scope out projects. We don't expect you to come up with it completely on your own. It's helpful to just start by looking at an open job description for a position that you are looking to hire for. Send it to us. We can take a look at it and come up with a few different project ideas based on that. We will work with you. We will help you come up with a draft. We don't post anything without your approval. Obviously, that goes through you. But also, if you don't have an existing job or an opening that you're looking to recruit for, that's no problem. You can think about that, those examples of wanting to get things crossed off your list, or just some other projects where you think a micro-intern can be helpful, and we can help you scope something out from there. If you look at the parkerdewey.com website, we also have a project library where it's really easy to just kind of take a look at some examples. If you're like, hey, I think I want to do something with marketing, I could use some help there. There's a little drop down. You can look at the different projects based on what's out there for that. But again, I'm very happy to be a resource for you as you're thinking about where a great place for you to start might be. It just takes a few minutes, and once the project's posted, you probably won't even need my help because it's so easy, but I'm still happy to join you along the way. Students will start to apply from there. You can review all the applicants, and then from there, you make a selection. The students will typically, like their application process, typically looks like they'll submit a resume, maybe their LinkedIn profile if they have that. And then you get to kind of populate in a couple application questions. So going back to that social media example that I was giving you before on a project that you might want to do, this particular employer put, what is your personal experience using social media? What platforms have you used, just to get an idea about what tools the student had used before, and then ask them to suggest one small business in their area that they thought had a really great social media presence. So the student was going to have to put some time into being able to answer that question. They have to do some research. They have to think about why they thought that company had a good social media presence and kind of put that pen to paper. That's allowing the employer to see that the student took effort and energy to apply to that project. They didn't just hit apply and include a resume and call it a day. The student is showing actual interest in this employer, actual interest in this work, and they're taking the time and demonstrate how their skills would be a benefit. So when you're reviewing all the students that have applied, you'll be able to see their application questions, their resume, and just any other supplemental information. You're able to favorite students in the system, so you can kind of come back at it later, or you can share with some of your team. But when you're ready to make a selection, it's just a quick drop down and then the student is selected. Once a student is selected, we do recommend setting up a quick 15 to 30 minute kickoff call with them. It's a chance to put a face to the name, to kind of go over expectations. If they have questions, what do they do? But typically, once the project's kicked off, the student is pretty much ready to go and can complete the work in the background on their own time and then submit it to you. But it's good to kind of have that kind of initial contact with the student so that you know that they're ready to go and ready to work on it. The student will then get to work and they'll submit their deliverables to you by the deadline. And then from there, you'll have a chance to review the work. It's also something that we've seen as a good best practice as well. Encourage the student, if you have the capacity for it, to present their project to you and or your team. It's a great way for the student to get a chance to practice their communication and presentation skills. It's also a great way for your team to get to know the student in case there's potential opportunities down the road. So it's not mandatory that they present their work to you, but that's just something that we've seen employers start to do. And we think it's a great opportunity for the student to get that chance to present. And then the only other thing that's going to be asked at you at that point when the project is marked complete is that you evaluate the student's work. And that's just all in the Parker Dewey platform. You don't need to, have a call or anything like that. You can just submit all your feedback directly in the platform. And then OCC will be able to see that feedback moving forward. So if they're working with that student in an advising capacity and the student's like, gosh, I'm just having a really hard time getting noticed or, having a hard time with my interviews. If that student has done projects and they're seeing feedback from employers that they need to work on communication skills, for example, now their career advisor can coach with them and help them work on that skill set. It also helps OCC understand how their students are doing. Maybe they're finding that students are excelling in Excel. I'm using Microsoft Excel as an example. And that is a great insight for them to know, hey, that Excel class that we put into place is really paying off because our employers are noticing it. Or maybe it's the other way. Hey, we really are looking for students that can use Microsoft Excel. And again, I'm just picking a random example here. And so now OCC is able to understand, okay, our employer population is expecting this skill. We better work on that with our students. So again, that data that the Parker Dewey platform provides continues to be a resource even after the project is complete. And then from there, you can post more projects at your leisure whenever you want. We have no deadlines. There's no certain time of year. You can post a project at any time of year, and students are able to complete them. Even if the semester is over at OCC, students are still eager to do work, especially over break, over summer, over times when they don't have class, because it's really easy to pick up some projects there. Okay, so let me show an example of taking some key points from a job description to help come up with a project idea. So here's just a basic entry-level marketing type of position. And then from here, we're able to kind of pull out some of the important pieces and think about the key skills, and then we can use that to create a relevant project. And again, if you have no idea about what project you'd want to do, we can work with you on that, or we can just simply review your ideas as well. So it goes both ways. Parker Dewey, I want to really stress, is a resource for employers of all shapes and sizes. It's, we work with all sorts of well-known brands that have no shortage of applicants, but maybe struggle with getting too many applicants and need a way to cut through the volume, or have uncertainty about this year's recruiting budgets or needs, or just trying to look beyond the usual feeders. But you also work with smaller, more local, less known employers that are also actively hiring, but don't have the resources of a major consulting firm or, Ford or GM or anything like that to be everywhere. And also maybe don't have the brand recognition that other companies do to get a student to open up a recruiting email. And so I just want to make that clear that Parker Dewey works with employers of all shapes and sizes. And so here's a challenge that one of our employers was facing, really just struggling to see traffic at their on-campus events, and they were planning to just simply skip it this year. And so not only does this impact their outcomes, and with employers feeling pressure among budget and time, making sure that our employers are seeing value is really important. And so in this example, the company used Parker Dewey to drive interest before coming to campus. It was no longer about just showing up at the booth at the event and hoping that somebody good would come across their table. But rather, they talked about offering projects exclusively to students who are planning to attend the career fair. And so that way they could kind of audition those candidates before seeing them on campus. And they're already going to have a pool of interested candidates that are going to recognize their name brand and are going to come up to their booth and are going to take the next steps to move forward. And so these students applied to these projects, even if they weren't a fit, but the employer is now starting to get this pool of students. And so as a result, they saw over 3 times more traffic. And this wasn't the same old, but it was an easy way to try something new without investing a whole lot of time and money. And I'm sorry, I see Cameron raising a hand.
There is a question in the chat. How do students find out about these micro-internships? Yeah, I don't know if you want to say that to the end or now.
Go ahead. The school will promote this platform to students. And so maybe you can speak a little bit about how you do get the word out to students.
Sure. So several capacities. One, we're going to do another live kickoff for our students virtually on February 19th. That information has not gone out yet, not to confuse the students. We also already have faculty inquiring about Parker Dewey. It's already on our OCC webpage. We'll push it out on LinkedIn, Handshake, on our digital cork boards, at our career fair, at our internship fair, and then just overall general communications with our student government, student engagement, counselors, academic advisors, our access offices, library offices, campus facilities. We have a mechanism to get that information out. In addition to all across our 4 campuses, we have stated a walk-in Wednesday. So anybody from the community, all students can walk into the various student-facing offices and get information. So there's a lot for students to get involved with, but this we feel is really another resource to tap students that are, in maybe programs that don't have an active recruiting mechanism. Everyone now is looking for skilled trades and culinary, but we have fantastic interior design, graphics design, construction management, AutoCAD classes. So looking for other resources for those students to do project-based learning. I hope Absolutely. That helps.
Yeah. And also I'll say too, if you post a project and you're like, I'm specifically looking for an OCC student, we will also let Cameron and her team know so that they're able to say like, hey, there's a new project right now in culinary. Cameron will make it a point we can let her know that it's out there, and then her team can get that out to the right group of students. So we work from the inside as well to kind of help promote these projects. And we always make sure to let the institution know that there's something out there for their students. Yes. Okay. Did I see any more questions? I think we're good. Okay, moving on. Okay, the second example, really common, the company showing up to the event, they're getting resumes, they're getting contact information, and then crickets. And I kind of talked about that before at my last institution. We would see that a lot, where you maybe take the time to go to a community event or something that OCC is hosting, and then you talk to a lot of nice students, but then you don't really hear anything after that. And that's not surprising. We actually have a stat that over 54% of students report blocking recruiting emails. That's by mistake. That's not intentional. They don't quite understand that. And so the company was able to use a dashboard in our Parker Dewey platform to get some insight on skills. And so we want to avoid that happening. And so as a result, because they're able to easily target the students ahead of time and offer these kind of little bite-sized opportunities, they were really able to connect with students in a much easier way. I also want to share a bit about the impact. And so there's a lot of impact in using micro-internships to recruit. I want to mention that 80% of the students that complete micro-internships come from underrepresented backgrounds. We also see the average cost per hire for campus recruiting show real impact here with over a 40 to 80% savings. And then also look at the retention rates for students who complete micro-internships. It's close to 100%. And so these are students who I think about an example where we had an employer that was recruiting for sales talent, which is hard to find. There's a ton of turnover. But when they used micro internships, they were able to really suss out who was going to be the best fit. And they vastly improved their retention rate by trying the micro internship out first. Okay, I talked a lot. I talk really fast too. So I just want to remind you again about what you need to do to get started. It's really easy. I also included my direct email. I'm just at emily@parkerdewey.com. So I will leave that slide up if you have questions or just want to screenshot it. I will be following up with you after this webinar is over, just to kind of, again, see how I can help you get started or just answer any questions. But if there's any other questions right now, by any means. Oh, is there any cost to the employer other than the project cost? Great question. So utilizing just the basic Parker Dewey platform is free. If you're looking to get deeper with the data and have access to that, if you're looking to recruit on a large scale basis, we do have a subscription model we can talk about as well. But just to use it on a day-to-day basis and get started recruiting OCC students today, there's no cost. I also want to mention we are not a staffing firm. So if you bring on a project student and you think they're great and you want to hire them for an internship or a full-time job, there's no fees at all. The student is welcome to come onto your books at any time, and we take nothing. So again, we keep 90%, the student keeps 90% of the project fee as their pay, and then Parker Dewey just retains 10% of that fee, and that's because the student remains on our books during the whole time, and we handle the NDAs, the administrative burdens, all that. Other than that, there's no additional costs. Any other questions? Okay, well, you guys were great today. Appreciate your time. Cameron, anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I think this is great. They do have a great, Parker Dewey has great FAQs on their website. I could probably drop that in the chat, but it kind of answers a lot of questions that maybe none of you have thought of or want to ask. But we have some time, so let us know. If not, thank you for attending. This is awesome. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.